Did you know the average short-term rental earns $56,000 a year while the average long-term rental earns $18,000 a year? I'm not a math wizard, but I think that's about a 3 times difference. Today, I'll show you how to turn your property into a cash-flowing short-term rental asset. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Garrett Brown, short-term rental real estate investor and the BiggerPockets STR expert, and I've helped thousands of people earn more as an STR, Airbnb, VRBO, or whatever acronym you want to throw in front of it. As this is one of the first videos we put out for the Bigger Stays YouTube channel from BiggerPockets, I would love for y'all to hit the subscribe button, hit a like, comment for the algorithm, and let us know that you're here and you're ready for more short-term rental content. I'm not going to keep going into other details though, because you're here for one thing, and let's get right to it. Let's dive into why short-term rentals beat traditional rentals, in my opinion. According to AirDNA, which is basically the holy grail of short-term rental data that is out there, the average short-term rental can make about $56,000 per year. This is obviously an average data pool from short-term rentals all over the country. Let's dive into a specific example real quick to show you what are the possibilities with an average property in some place like Branson, Missouri. This property here, the long-term rents on it would equal about $1,500 per month. Now, it is less work to probably do a long-term rental than it is a short-term rental, but there's a lot of tips and tricks that I'll be able to give you that will make running a short-term rental just as easy. This same listing, according to AirDNA, on Airbnb and other short-term rental sites is going to make around $40,000 per year instead. Now, you will have more expenses, but that much of a revenue gap is the kind of thing that gets me out of bed in the morning when I'm a short-term rental host. One of the big factors why STRs are so great is you're not tied into any type of contract. You have flexibility. If you see a big event coming to your area, you can raise the prices. Having a slow season, you can lower the prices for a little bit until you get back to peak season. This is something you can't do with a long-term lease, and you know exactly what you're going to get each month. Another big highlight for short-term rentals is the tax advantages into it. I'm far from a tax expert, so talk with your CPA, and we will have more videos going into this with tax experts very soon. But there are things called the STR tax loophole, even though it's not really a loophole, it's written in the tax code, that are going to allow you to deduct your W-2 wages from the amount of work you put into your STRs as well. And there's a lot of deductions that you can pull between furniture, utilities, even mileage that are going to be able to help your cash flow at the end of the year. The first major step is picking your market. I'm going to have a whole video series about picking a market, and I already have a guide that is out on BiggerPockets about this. So I'm just going to run through it for a couple of minutes. But if you have any specific questions, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to answer. One of the main things I tell STR investors is don't be afraid to invest in your backyard. It doesn't have to be some high tourism market like the Smoky Mountains or Gulf Shores, Alabama, to be a successful short-term rental. Some of my most successful short-term rentals were 30 to 40 minutes away from me in Houston, Texas, in an area that I grew up going vacation when I was younger as a family trip. I just knew that families will travel to these areas, and we're near a major metro hub like Houston. I use tools like AirDNA and Price Labs and MashVisor to help figure out what are some of the markets and what I could actually make in these places. They'll give you the average daily rate, the occupancy rate, your estimated annual revenue, your revenue per available room, all these metrics that are going to be very critical to a short-term rental investor to know. They'll be able to give you a good average of that area based on all the data that they're collecting. Now, will you do this exact number? Possibly, but you also could go lower if you don't have a property that performs as well as they're expecting. But the main thing is you can also outperform these numbers and even beat them if you have a property that hits to the top of the market like I have. Some of the places I've invested in, AirDNA said we were going to make 25 to 30K, and I have 3 different cabins on one piece of land that are making between 80 to 100,000 themselves, each one. One of the biggest metrics that you should take into while you're looking at some of these areas is something called a yield percentage. This is going to be where you take the estimated average annual revenue from one of these sites like AirDNA, and then you equate the average median home price for the area, or even the price of the house that you're particularly looking at, to see what the percentage is going to be that it comes from. You take the revenue divided by the home price, and that's going to give you the yield percentage. Lower the percentage is worse, higher percentage is even better, because that means you're making more money for the amount that you put up to just acquire the property. Now, there's a bunch of metrics that we will go into all the time, but this is a big one that I look at when I'm especially trying to determine a market to see if there's even going to be some operations out there that I can get into, because I am not a multi-million-dollar investor. One of my biggest pro tips is try to find a market that has low seasonality. Some of the greatest markets out there like Gulf Shores, Alabama, and places like that have very bad seasonality and they still perform well. So it is not something to completely deter you away, but markets like Flagstaff, Arizona, Waco, Texas, those are markets that are pretty much going to be operating year round because of the seasonality that they have. Once you pick the market, now you're going to have to figure out what property you actually want to do. The first step you need to figure out in some of these markets is the regulations that are out there. You might find the perfect property in a small HOA and it's in a great area. And then you look up into the regulations and you realize that you can't have a short-term rental there because of HOAs, the city regulations not allowing you to have a house within a certain feet of another short-term rental. There's a lot of these type of regulations popping up, and regulations are not all bad. They should not scare you away from a market every single time, because regulations will make the bad operators go away because they're not going to want to follow these type of rules and keep getting fined. And the good operators are going to abide by these rules. It will be harder. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but it's going to make the saturation of these markets go down significantly. And you might be able to come in as a professional host and operate in the way that they are looking for and operate successfully. Once you're analyzing air DNA in the markets, you're going to need to figure out what your target guest avatar is. Who travels to these type of markets? Is it couples and romantic getaways? Is it bachelorette parties? Is it families? Is it a couple different styles? Once you've honed in on that, that will help you pick what type of property you're looking for. You need something that's going to stand out. A plain Jane property with nothing to it, unless you just get a screaming deal on it and you're in an amazing location, it's going to be very hard to make that profitable to the point of the amount of work that you're going to have to put into it makes sense. With that in mind, when you're thinking about your listing, design it for something like Instagram. You want your place to be so show-stopping worthy that people are scrolling on Airbnb or whatever site they're on and they immediately stop and they have to click into your listing. That means that you have a place that is worthy of the experience that short-term rental guests are actually looking for the majority of the time. Not every time, but unique experiences and themes and designs are going to win about 80% of the time. You need to also make sure you're going to be priced competitively using something like a dynamic pricing software like Price Labs. AirDNA has their own version. There's Beyond Pricing. There's quite a few different ones out there now that will be able to tell you what type of average daily rate you're going to be able to get, and they'll be able to adjust your pricing to make sure you're staying as booked as possible in the areas that you're in. They take a lot of data from the area, figure out what places are renting at what price, and they equate your property to that. Your property might have a few significant features that you might have to manually include in your rates, just from what you think they might be worth, but you'll be able to get a pretty good idea looking at your competition nearby of what you might actually be able to make. And when you're looking at the different STRs that are there, see what amenities they are offering that you will know you will need to have to compete with them. Do most of the places have a hot tub? You're probably going to need a hot tub. Do all of the top places in the market have amazing views? You might not be able to compete with that, but what about that second tier? Do all of them have amazing views? Maybe, maybe not. Is there a central location in that area that the higher performing short-term rentals are actually at? Do the ones that do not perform as well, are they because they're 20, 30 minutes on the other side of town and you didn't realize you needed to be in one specific area to have the highest rate that you're looking for? Are most of the properties in the area pet friendly? This is one of the most searched filters on Airbnb and it's going to increase your revenue by about 10%. The next step is going to be mastering your operations. And this is when the hospitality side of short-term rentals really come in. I tell people they need to win on the real estate front and the hospitality front in short-term rentals to be successful. There's several types of softwares out there that can make your life easier and not have to work as much on the short-term side, answering guest questions, telling them what the door code is. All these things that you can automate are going to be key for your peace of mind and making sure that you're able to scale these type of operations. Using a property management software, something like Hospitable, will make your life way easier when you're able to send custom guest messages, be able to have multiple platforms sync together so all of your calendars will sync and you won't have double bookings. Say you have an Airbnb and VRBO listing. Something like Hospitable is going to be able to join both of those together and allow you to automate when bookings come in. You'll be able to send out automated messages to your cleaners so they'll know when they need to clean. Different things like that will save you from the headaches of, did I tell my cleaner they needed to be here today for this turnaround? All this could be automated for you. Even as somebody like me who worked full time, I don't even touch my cleaning system. I have a once a week check-in with my different cleaning teams to make sure we're on the same page for what is scheduled for the week. But most of the time I wouldn't even need to do that. I just do that as an extra layer because something like Hospitable and a company like Turno, which is another app, they can talk together and sync up and let all these cleanings be pretty much handled on their own. One of the most crucial pieces of guest operations, though, is going to be the review system on something like Airbnb or VRBO. You're going to need to have high reviews. It is one of my least favorite parts, honestly, of short-term rentals is being handcuffed by reviews. I haven't come up with a better word for that yet. But if you provide the best experience you can with the guest in mind, you will succeed in this all the time. Guests just want something, I like to call it a digital hug. Sometimes they may quickly ask a question, and if you're able to get back with a simple answer, that's all they're looking for. They just want to know somebody is there sometimes on the other side of the listing. Simple things like leaving a thank you note, a small welcome basket, all these type of things can add up to a 5-star review, and you don't need to do anything amazingly above and beyond. Just give good customer service and be respectful of the guests that are there and thankful that they came to stay with you and spend money with you. Once you've started to master a lot of these operations, then you'll probably be interested in scaling your business. This is when financing strategies and the vertical scaling of the inside of your business will become crucial. But for now, we're just going to take baby steps and just get a few under your belt before you worry about being the next Marriott. You may not even want to scale that far, and you may be totally fine with one property, and that is all you need. This is your journey, and the end goal is the only thing that should matter to you because it's your end goal. Don't let any of these other gurus out there tell you what you should be going after and what you should feel like you should be doing. Everybody is different in this business. I personally don't want to have 1,000 different types of rentals and scale a massive portfolio. I know where I want to hit. I'm looking to hit maybe 8 to 10 by the end of the year, and then maybe eventually get into a boutique hotel. But I also like the job that I work, and I want the ability to run both. But short-term rentals can get you out of the rat race if you do not like your job, though. So this is not a one-size-fits-all. All of these things together probably sound very daunting, and they can be. So that's why we're here to help and give you a breakdown on step-by-step process of guides, interview some of the most successful hosts in the area, and keep giving you the content that you like to see in the short-term rental world. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to see next, and I appreciate y'all tuning in. I think YouTube suggests you watch these videos next.